In the last lesson, we used Firebase authentication to register our very first user. So now that our user's been registered, they've been allowed to go over to the chat screen. But what if I wanted to be able to log in at a later date? Well, currently our login screen doesn't do anything yet. So let's go ahead and fix that. And I'd like to pose that to you as a challenge. Can you use FirebaseAuth to log in an existing user? You'll need to capture the email and password from the text fields, similar to how we did things on the registration screen. And then you'll need to use FirebaseAuth to sign in an existing user with their email and password. And therein lies the challenge. You'll have to figure out which method to use to sign a user in. Now, I'll give you a few seconds to pause the video and channel your inner Sherlock Holmes before I show you the solution. Ready? Here's the solution. Go ahead and open up the login screen.dart, and as usual, we're going to need to import the auth package that we'll need to rely on. And we are again going to create a auth object. So we're going to have it as a private auth object, and it's going to be set to equal a Firebase auth object. And we'll need again to have a email variable and a password variable so that we can save the values that are created inside our text fields. So this one is going to be the email, and this one is going to be the password. All right, so now that we've tied our values in our text fields to some variables, we can actually use it to log our user in inside our button. So right about here, we're going to create a new user, which is going to be created using our auth object, and we're going to sign in with email and password. So this is the method that we're going to use, and this is the counterpart to the create user with email and password. And email is of course set to equal email, and password is going to be password. Now, again, we have to make sure that we change our onPressed to async so that we can wait for this sign in with email to finish before we go to the next step, where we check to make sure that we actually did get an actual user back. So user is not equal to null. Well, in this case, then we should probably take the user to the chat screen, right? They've gone through all the checks, and we as the bouncer are going to admit them to the club. So we're going to use our push named, and our root name is going to be our chat screen.id. And to use it, we of course have to import the chat screen. And now the last thing we have to do is to wrap all of this inside our good old try catch block, just to catch any exceptions that occur. And you might get exceptions such as if the user doesn't actually exist, or if they typed in the wrong password, all sorts of things that you can save and put into widgets to show the user, or you can create your own messages for them saying that something didn't go right, maybe they should try again. So now we're ready to check our login. So let's go ahead and do a hot restart again. And let's go ahead and log in our user. So my email that I registered with was angela@email.com, and the password was 123456. So now if I click on login and I get taken to the chat, then I should see that email being printed again, because whenever a new user comes over to chat, we always try to print out the current logged in user's email. So now that we've confirmed all of this, we can probably comment out or delete this line of code. So that wraps up the solution to the challenge, and we're ready to tackle the very last part of our login and registration flow, which is to be able to log the user out, because you can only log in once you log out, right? So we've got this little cross button here created with an icon in our chat screen, and we can implement the logout functionality really, really easily. So here's our icon button right here. And when our button gets pressed, we want our user to log out. So we're going to tap into that auth instance, and we're simply going to use the method sign out. And it's as simple as just telling it to sign out. And once the user has signed out though, we'll need to use the navigator to pop them back to the previous screen. And now we can simply click on the cross button to log back out. And that takes us straight back to the login page if we want to go back into the chat app. So in the next lesson, we're going to upgrade the login experience, because at the moment when we log in, everything kind of just stops and then we see the chat screen. We're going to add a loading indicator to show the user that something's happening in the background and they should be patient until it's done, when we'll take them to the chat screen. So for all of that and more, I'll see you on the next lesson.